Hello, everyone. So it's my pleasure to be here and talk about fintech in China. And so, of course, in Asia, in India, and other countries, I think China has the biggest influence now. So as you can see, my full-time work is I'm a professor in Newcastle Business School. I'm chair for technology and operations management. But in the meantime, I also co-chair of Qualcomm Global. So basically, we run 7,000 square meters innovation center in central London, Liverpool Street Station. And then I also have a fintech company, blockchain finance payment, which is called the UKDE. You can. Basically, I spent about 5 minutes talk about some of my activities and some of the information, what's happening in China. So as you can see that China is very leading in the world regarding to the market. Okay, it's even 50 or 60 times of US. So regarding to the fintech and the mobile payment. So this is because that China's huge population. Before, huge population is a weakness. Okay, so for a country, too many people you to take care of. But because of AI and the modern technologies, so the productivity, the technology support improve productivity, and so China's population become an advantage. So that's very important. That's also applied to many other technology like 5G and others. So basically, so China, enough banks now they start to have their own thing, like Bank of China and Bank of Commerce in China, and all the top banks they already have fintech companies, individual, even separate fintech companies. So they think it's very, very important. But you know that in China, so there are many regulations that haven't followed up with the technology. So that's why they didn't allow many applications in blockchain and the virtual cryptocurrency. However, they will do gradually. So there are some recent announcemement. So this is all the banks that they start to do their separate fintech companies. So if any company in the UK, you want to work with China, so we can help you to link with these banks, their fintech companies. Yeah. So, and for central bank, Chinese central bank, so actually they are preparing, they want to know. So my classmate was still the vice president of China National Clearance Center, so in charge of all the transactions in China. And he want to work with the UK, working with Cambridge, work with the Bank of England. So we are developing some collaboration together so that we will understand each other about the fintech, so we can get better policy. Okay. So, and some examples here. Now China still, it's not forbidden in China for blockchain technology. So they want to gradually open. And as you can see, there are some examples to apply blockchain in different sectors. Yeah. And this one is important. Bank of China, the central bank, they start to open Great Bay Area, which is close to Shenzhen, Guangzhou, the Great Bay Area. They want to test there with a very leading pioneer concept of fintech there. So if you want to set up a new concept of fintech, you go to Shenzhen, you will get a much better support. Okay, so basically you may know these are the top Chinese project in crypto project. And the guy who run Tron, so he was going to have a lunch. He spent like $5 million for a lunch with Darren Buffett, right? So basically these are Chinese companies. Okay. So of course this you may know. Okay. So briefly talk about my company. We basically have the payment, the different payment, and so different currency, RMB, Euro, and British pound. So we can use our APP, have our own card, Visa card. So this is about what everyone else may interested or already start to do. Okay. So this is my company, Qualcomm, so 7,000 square meters. And we want to do something very interesting in Cocoon. Okay, so basically, many events about London FinTech Week already happening in my center, and we want to build this as a center of London FinTech, okay, for London FinTech startups. So we have a blockchain incubator with Eric Van, who I think already spoke early for this event. So he already have a blockchain incubator called Frontier. Okay, so he's based in my company. And we are going to have the first cryptocurrency cave. Okay, so we're doing this with several possible partners, and we are very welcome for you to contribute your resource and knowledge. Okay, develop this with us together. And this one, people think that blockchain or Bitcoin is the modern Magna Carta, okay? So because that Magna Carta decentralized the political power 800 years ago, and now we want blockchain to decentralize the financial system. And one of my company, what we did is that we acquired the Magna Carta Island, so where the Magna Carta signed. And actually, we want to use the Magna Carta Island to enable it into a blockchain island, okay? So I'm sure you know this, and welcome to visit me, okay? So many of my time I spend on this island. So we already have the first blockchain forum on Magna Carta Island. That's in March. And we're going to have the second blockchain forum, which will be 24th of July. So if you are interested, you can contact me, okay? So, well, this is actually early slides. In my latest version, maybe not covered here, so I talk about that in my center of Cocoon, okay? So we also developed the first ever 5G exhibition center with Huawei and the Digital Catapult of UK. So we will demonstrate the most leading 5G technology, because 5G will work with blockchain. Blockchain have more applications if with 5G support. And the first building that is enabled by 5G will be my building. Okay, working with president of Huawei. Okay, so this is the 24th event. Okay, and that's my contact. Yeah, so I think that's for my few minutes presentation.
Thank you very much,
Background.
Professor Xiong.
Thank you.
Please sit down. I'd like to chat with you a little bit more about some of the issues that you raised. But let's start with the Magna Carta Island.
Oh, this one.
Oh. That's actually immensely symbolic, of course, that 800 years ago that it became the first distribution of power in the UK, and now that you're thinking of it with blockchain and distributed economies. What is your bigger ambition for what you can create or grow out of Magna Carta Island?
Yeah, because blockchain is very powerful and cryptocurrency are very powerful, but how to regulate them, how to have a mutual agreement. So this is something we are working on. So in last month, June, Cambridge University Jesus College organized a Rastas conference, bringing about 30 leading experts in blockchain and FinTech. So I'm one of the 30 people, together with people from Cambridge, Central Bank, Bank of England. So we agree that, as a whole day discussion, we agree that we haven't found an agreement about how to regulate it, even the leading expert. So that's why I organized the second one in my island, because I want to have a Magna Carta Island declaration in blockchain, just like what we did 800 years ago for the Magna Carta. Yeah.
Well, I hope it will be as powerful and long-lasting as the Magna Carta.
Yes, that island will last forever, no matter what will happen to blockchain, you know.
Thank you. How fascinating. So just coming back to the discussions that we were having before about how you can forge bridges between UK and China companies, We were at Cocoon Networks, by the way. We launched a Women in Blockchain event on Thursday, and we had the London Fintech hackathon there over the weekend. So it is a place that's attracting UK companies, and it in some ways provides a bridge with Chinese companies. Can you talk about how you see that bridge being built and how UK companies can think about partnering and collaborating with China?
Yeah. So in China, there are two ways for partnering. One is that to work with Chinese companies in the UK, or working with Chinese companies in China. So if we look at in the UK, so China have more resource enable UK technology still reach Chinese market, those companies based in the UK. And also for the investment side, think about another company that I have. I'm a director of a company called the Indo Group. So we invest about 20 projects in fintech last year. So basically this, we use immigration fund. The immigration investors, they come to UK, they want to do business in fintech, so we can direct them to SMEs in UK. So we bring investor to UK and also help the company in the UK to find a Chinese market. In the other side, if companies in the UK want to reach the Chinese market, so we know the policy, we know where are the opportunities, and importantly, we have the connections, such as I said, my classmate is working for central bank for all the payment system as a vice president. And also we can devise new models, get government policy. Okay, so in China, if you want to start a business, don't just do it on your own. Okay, so you should negotiate with the government first so that you get the best policy and the resource and the funding. And then you start to do your business. Yeah. So I think the culture and the system is quite different for the two countries. But one thing is for sure, China and the UK, they want to do more collaboration in fintech. And we already witnessed the launch of Shanghai London Stock Exchange. So basically, China and the UK will become more and more close. Yeah.
Oh, that's great to hear. So I think quite a few UK companies are probably a little bit scared to open up business in China. So what would you advise them in terms, you said that the Chinese system is different than the UK system. How do they meet people that are trusted, that can give them the connections that will keep them safe and allow them to enter into business in China?
Yeah, so before approach China, so we need to actually know some people have the trust. Because unfortunately in China, there is no credit system like in UK. Everybody have a credit score. No matter you go to mortgage, you do any other financial activities, you have a credit. But in China, there is no such system. People do business based on trust. So that's why we set up Cocoon Global. So because we have the base here, we have one building there, so we cannot run away. So we want to have trust for both UK companies and for Chinese companies. So we bring them together and maybe help you, divert you to the right resource, or even work with you to the right company. Yeah, so the trust is very important. So if for investor just come to the UK without people to as a introducer, okay, so the trust cannot be delivered, cannot be conveyed. Okay, so I hope that if any fintech SMEs want to deal with China, so you can talk to us. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're interested in working, then please talk to the people at Cocoon. Let me ask you another question. In the last panel, the panel was talking about how to take British FinTech innovations to other countries. What do you think are some of the British FinTech innovations that China might be interested in?
So, well, that's a very good question, because I think you really think that actually the population in China is huge, as I said, and if you think that your application can be applied in the UK, I'm sure it can be applied in China, because no matter in China, because the market is big, no matter your innovation level is huge or no, okay, you have a market. That's why I always think that China will be the future technology market. So because that small innovation in the UK, they can only stimulate a little market, and this small share of market cannot make a technology to survive. But if you have this small innovation in China, that's also small share of a huge market, and you can make a huge money. Okay, so that's why I think if you think about your scenario, even say your scenario is not okay in UK. Okay, so you try China market, and you may become a very successful business. Yeah.
It's funny being an Australian because we really are a little market, and it's funny sitting here and listening to Professor saying that the UK is a little market. But I get the point. Exponentially, the population in China is huge.
Yeah,
what about the other way round? Obviously, China is innovating very fast in technology, and particularly consumer-focused technology. And a lot of the conversations here have been around how the platform companies are moving into fintech, moving into the traditional domains of the bank and insurance companies. What are some of the innovations in China in fintech that you think might come to the UK or might be of interest to the UK?
Yeah, so actually, if you think about Chinese technology, Chinese product like a WeChat, so at the beginning they don't have a payment function. Now have payment functions, and gradually it's huge. It's like take maybe already #1 place in the world about how many people use WeChat for international or fintech payment. So now Facebook want to have this function, but it's already behind. So I think many Chinese technologies, they can actually, because they create the infrastructure in China already, so they just extend their market, extra market in the UK. So it's not the other way around. It's not a create infrastructure, which is very costly in the UK, then go to the next step. So these Chinese companies, they want to move about, just like TikTok. TikTok is a Chinese company, but now very, very popular in the UK. In China, it's very, very popular, and they just have an English version, then become popular in the UK. Yeah, so I think there are more and more such companies, such Chinese technologies. They want to demonstrate their innovatives in the UK. And actually, recently, another company, which you mentioned Australia. So one of the Australian company called Australia Thin Fortune, ASF, moved to the UK. So this company owns 4 listed companies. So the chairman, Mr. Yang, is my good friend. And so he came to UK, he set up the first company called Britain Thin Fortune, which is ASF changed to BSF, which I'm a director of this company. So basically, we are going to create a region in Barking, working with the Barking Council, council leader, Darren, working with us to create a demonstration area of Chinese technologies. And we will focus on fintech, okay, how Chinese fintech and the Chinese other leading technology can demonstrate in Barking, so that we can have more people, not only find the cocoon as one building, we don't have limited resources, we have more resources to create such a platform so that to work with UK. So that's why I said there are more and more opportunities between China and the UK, more and more significant investment and the platforms developed, and need everybody to help this opportunity. Yeah.
No, fascinating. Well, we've got time for a couple of questions from the floor. So can we have a microphone up the front here, please?
Hi. Nice to meet you. My name's Peter Joyce, a company called Inform Tech Plus. It's interesting that you have made such an emphasis on the Magna Carta. I was actually involved in a charity several years ago called the Great Charter Foundation, and it was all set up for the celebration of Magna Carta.
Wow.
And I was just listening to you talk there, and there is definitely parallel. If you look back in history with King John, what you had back then was several barons who, to be frank, were about to take over because they felt it was just, a situation that they couldn't tolerate anymore, where they'd lost trust in King John, and they felt that King John was no longer acting in the way that he should have acted to some extent. So if you think about Magna Carta and what that was, it was basically a reset, and it was a realignment of respect and trust to say, we trust you, we are your barons, but if you keep on treating us this way, it's intolerable, and we now need to change things. And it's very interesting that you've chosen Magna Carta as a base to work forward, because what I see in the industry is the fundamental part of this whole industry is trust. Everyone knows that digitization, centralization, distributed networks, the ability to encode certain things in a way where you can, in a way, get rid of middlemen and eliminate fraud is the way forward. But how do you now build that Magna Carta, or how do you now build that agreement of trust, or that new agreement from your island? And how do you now, so if there's one thing that you now want to achieve over the next year, what is that one thing that you're going to do to build trust, both within the UK and the fintech area within the UK and London, but also to link that trust up with China so that we can all work together in a trust way?
Yeah. So I believe my answer will be shorter than your question, okay? Yeah. So I think that we want to use Magna Carta as a mechanism for discussion and to compromise. So I already aware that there are so many disagreements about blockchain. So we provide that platform for negotiation and discussion. So I do not know where this approach would end, but I welcome you to join our discussion. We can share this process. It's not a one island matter. It's not only one company matter. It's about the society. We want to. It's also not about one country society. It's about multiple countries society. So I'm very open for this platform so that we can share opinions and Magna Carta itself is a compromise between the king and also other noble people. Of course, some people, they don't really obey with Magna Carta, which has been agreed at that time. But in general, the royal family, they still think this is very important. That's the queen planted a tree in my island, and also her father, King George, also planted a tree there because they respect their promise. Okay, so as a royal family. So I think generally we know every agreement we have or every declaration or announcement we have, many people were against it. But eventually, so if we take care of each other and consider each other, so we will understand each other and compromise with each other, and we will have some rules, so mutually acceptable rules. Yeah.
Thank you. Lofty ambitions, but I think a lot of people in the blockchain community share those kinds of ambitions, particularly for global connection. So let's have one last question, and then we're going to break for morning coffee. Are there any more questions from the floor? One down here.
Do you have any comment on open banking movement in China? Because it's developing in a sort of not regulated way. It's very laissez-faire, it's very, very free to implement. Do you have any comment on that?
Thank you. I think China is very innovative in this, and the government already take care of every possible response from the market. Just like Jack Ma said, that so if the bank do not change, so we will change bank. And there is a very tough process even for Jack Ma to do this. But eventually, as you can say, in Great Bay Area, they want to test new policies, and they start to allow some called a shadow bank or whatever the mechanism to be developed in China. So China, they want to take a lead in fintech. So and this is why the Bank of China people, they want me to organize training for them in the UK so that they can discuss and learn from their colleagues in Bank of England or from leading academics. So I think in China, the open bank initiative will be supported. Maybe China will be the first country to really have some of this progress made, so in this sort of initiative, because the government is really listen to the people from the market. But one day, as you know, so if blockchain or other technology can be well developed, so we may not have a bank, right? So actually, Chinese people, they don't use bank, many of them, they use WeChat. WeChat you can associate with the bank or not. Okay, so we just can receive money, we can make payment. That's it. We don't need a bank card. We don't need the cash, right?
Well, thank you very much. Please join with me in thanking Professor Xiong in what I think will be one of many continuing conversations about how China and the UK can collaborate. You can continue your friendly battle about who's going to be the FinTech capital. So let's think. And yeah, I think the symbolism of the Magna Carta island when we're talking about global decentralised economies is very powerful. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for inviting me. Thank you.